Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K Now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next couple of hours, along with Nick.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Steve is here.
Hello, everybody.
Good morning. And Mike is here. Wow.
Yes, he is.
Good morning.
Hello.
Our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And today's show is made possible by Telestream's Wirecast software and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear.
Not really, but...
Well, I didn't change anything there yet. It seems like everything is okay, right?
I don't know.
I see it fine in the...
Sounds good on YouTube.
Yeah, okay, so that's good. All right. We'll talk about
It makes
later.
a nice change to actually be able to see you in Hangouts, Amnon.
You can actually see me in the Hangout now.
Why don't you explain what's going on?
Okay, let's explain it. I'm using vMix versus Wirecast, and it has some features that allow me to do that. And Nick fixed me up yesterday. We configured the Computers 2K Now show, and it's actually really nice. I mean, I'm going back and forth on it, on all this automation. I mean, really, all I had to do is click on the intro, and it took me into my shot and all that. It's almost like something that you're not used to do, and you want to click, and you want to click, and you don't need to click. And the other thing is, I'm hoping that the level of the recording is not way too loud, Nick, because I'm used to Wirecast was just going up.
I'm sure
a little bit. Over here, it's really going. So
it's fine. We tested it yesterday.
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine. I mean, I'm recording it on the Ninja too, so if something happens, it's there also. But yeah, no. At this point, everything seems to be all right. Of course, I don't have my headphone. I'll do it later. And Facebook is not up and running yet.
Yes, it is.
No, well, but you can't see anything if you click on the Facebook. No, if you click on Facebook under the video.
Oh, I don't know.
No, I need to fix that. But that's okay. I'll do it in a minute or so. But yeah, that's it.
So
It looks. Go ahead, Steve.
So you mean to say you're using a new piece of software and you're not pulling your hair out?
I'm not. I'm using a new piece of software. I'm not used to it.
Excuse me while I faint.
And Steve, you want to hear the best part?
Go on then.
Are you ready for this? Steve, I don't think you're ready for this. Are you sitting down?
I'm definitely sitting down, yes.
Okay. He reached out to me to set it up for him.
No.
This wasn't me dragging it out of him. Well, I mean, I have in the past, but I just got a message yesterday that it needed to be done.
but you work cheap.
Well, of course.
Yeah, you don't
like you-
charge a lot.
Yeah, what he fails to tell you is that for what now, 2 years
Yeah, I've been shaming the living hell
he's
out of
been
you. Yeah,
after
it's fine.
me.
Yeah, but I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, no, it is fine. You know, it's the old saying of you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and I feel very comfortable with Wirecast. It's doing its thing. I mean, yeah, it's got the quirks, but it's in general it's doing what it's supposed to do for me. But this is really nice. I mean, I
But then,
like
with that
it.
mindset, you should be using VidBlaster.
Yeah. Actually,
Mike, you just wash your mouth out.
Well, he said he's comfortable with it.
I'm happy that I mean this was a big hurdle, and I'm glad that finally I did it. So everything is fine. So what else is going on?
Yeah, well, sometimes the thing that you fear most is only one step away to get there.
Right. This was even less than a step away. Everything was there other than the knowledge of how to configure it.
So how does that affect your CPU?
Well, it's a little bit less. Yeah, it's Nick. It's like
But
now,
plus, you're doing return video, which you were
it's
never doing.
47, 50, 45, 48, 47, 44, 46. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Anything
right.
less
I
than
am
50.
sending return videos, so that takes a lot too.
You're
so-
sending 720p return video.
Yeah, so it's fine. I also forgot to change the video card, which I have sitting here. We're running on a Radeon, and I thought that the NVIDIA does better with vMix, right, Nick?
You probably just wait till you build your new machine. If you still plan on doing that.
I'm planning on it, but
Well then,
I
would just wait.
realize that I'm not going to be able to test it completely because I don't
My
have...
return video is clearly not 720.
No.
No, except
Yeah.
when you talk.
I'm
You
not
mean you see? You mean Nick is 720, but I'm not when I talk.
Well, it depends on the shot, because on the return video,
Okay.
right now I'm looking at the side by side with you and me, and it looks like about 240p.
Wait
When
a
Nick
second.
talks, it looks about 720.
Okay,
What
let me
happens when
click
I talk?
this. So what do you see now?
I see 4 of you, and that's not good.
Oh, shoot.
1 is enough.
Yeah. So I can't click on that. Is this a feature, Nick, or I'm not supposed to do that?
I have no idea what you have.
What I did
configured.
is I
wouldn't worry about it.
clicked on
That's
my
inside
I
stuff.
clicked on my
Yeah, I
thumbnail.
wouldn't- Yeah, you clicked on your thumbnail. You're showing what
Okay.
you're sending to us right
Yeah,
now.
Okay.
That's exactly why you messaged me this morning that nothing was working
Yeah.
at 8:30 because of that
Yeah.
simple thing right
Yeah.
there. It's at the grocery store and I get it's not working.
It's just it's a different way than it was in Wirecast. In Wirecast, I wasn't sending the video, so I never encountered that.
Yes.
Actually, I didn't send the video because when I used to send it, and then it started locking up when I was sending it, so I decided I'm not going to send it anymore. That's right.
There you go.
Yep. So what else is happening, guys? Come on, I want to do I want to switch to one of you. So I
don't
can
know,
do
give us
the.
something to talk about.
Nothing to talk about. Let me give you something to talk about. Apple Watch.
Yes.
Apple Watch.
I need to go clean out my toilet.
What?
I mean,
Well, actually, before we get
Apple-
into the Apple Watch, I guess.
Apple's shares were tumbling on Friday. Everybody was talking about it because of their new release of the Apple Watch that had some problems, apparently.
No, they're using it wrong. The Apple just works.
Well, there's a couple interesting things about this. First one with the new Apple Watch, and so the Apple Watch previously and all smartwatches, for the most part, tether to your phone, and that seems to be a good solution. I personally like that. I think it's a nice added addition. But the idea with the new Apple Watch is that they want you to purchase another cell phone line and have that device always connected. And they say so that if you leave your phone at home, you can still use your watch. But what Apple seems to be disconnected with reality on is the fact that a new cell phone line will cost you $30 a month. So I don't see people paying that unless they're people that
Apple fanboys do not bother with cost.
this is where the argument is missed. It's not that it's $30 a month to use the watch. It's only $30 a month if you want to use the features. It's only $30 a month if you leave your phone somewhere and need to use the watch. The watch works perfectly without the SIM card or the cell phone plan. So I don't really understand the point of it. I mean, the watch isn't really useful for doing. I mean, yes, you can make phone calls and stuff on it, but is it worth $30 a month to do that? I think no, but I guess I could be wrong.
The new cell phone is what, $1,200?
Well, it depends. So the one that just came out, the iPhone 8, is $599 and $699. Or no, $599 and $799. That's the iPhone 8 and the 8 Plus. Those just came out this week.
Well, which one is 1300? The X,
Well,
1200?
a very high version of the X. The regular X is $1,000. 1300 would be
The gold
Probably.
version.
yeah, or something like that, an additional version.
Yeah, leave that one in the bathroom at the truck stop.
Well, I mean, think about it. The phone you have right now is probably $600 or $700 anyway. So
And it still works
yeah, of course.
until I update it.
But I mean, that's I don't know. The prices don't
Now-
really bother me.
Now let me say this.
Well, hold on, wait.
Okay,
Just
go ahead.
money.
No, but I mean, Mike, your phone was $600 or $700. So what the hell's another $200 or $300?
Yeah, why not 1,200 more?
No, come on. I mean, be
I know,
realistic. with
where's
it.
the line here, Nick?
I don't know. Where is the line? If I'm going to spend,
I think Apple is there. There are a lot of people who use Apple phones who are not qualified to be Apple fanboys. They're actually normal people, and at some point in time, I mean, look at. I won't get into the political side of it, but the fact is that at some point in time, $1,200 is too much for a phone.
I agree. The phone isn't $1,200.
Well, you can get one, and you know these people, they've got to have the latest and greatest, because what if one of their classmates sees them with anything but the most expensive one? I mean, God almighty, what would go wrong there?
Well, that's fine. I mean, I don't really care what those people do. But my point is, if I was to buy the iPhone 8, which I need a new phone.
Which
sooner
one
rather
do you
than
have?
later. I have the 6 Plus. It is 4 generations old, and I'm out of
You
storage.
need a new phone. I've got a 6 and it works great.
Well, that's fine. You don't use your phone like I do, I guess. I don't know. So I'm in the market for a new phone because I'm out of storage and I can no longer do anything on the phone.
How much storage do you have in your
I
phone?
have 16 gigabytes. It's been
Well, that was dumb.
Yes, I'm aware it was dumb. I appreciate that. Jesus Christ. So
Better call on somebody you know.
okay, so if I was to buy an 8 or an 8 Plus, I'd spend at least $800. So if I could spend an extra $200 and get the latest and greatest, why would I not? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Sure, absolutely.
But okay, but give me your opposite argument. I mean that.
Mike, he did his homework and he researched it, and I have to agree with him, even though I don't agree about spending that kind of money on a phone.
I'm not.
I have to agree because what?
You're missing my point.
Yeah.
He is perfectly free to spend his money
Oh, I
any way
know,
he
I
chooses
know.
with zero criticism from me. What I'm saying is, for me, Now Nick makes a lot more money than I do, so that might be the difference. But for me, that's just insane.
But it
Yeah.
wouldn't be insane to spend $700 on a phone because that's what you've done.
In years gone by.
Yeah, well, exactly, and that's my point. Is if you're going to spend $700 or $800 on the phone, the X is marginally better than the 8 Plus. It's got a much faster processor.
Here's my point. That's what they always say, and of course, the new firmware slows down the old phones and causes the battery life to go to crap, which they've already started on. They claim it's not intentional, but I don't buy that.
That happened on my phone a year and a half ago. Yeah,
I remember you talking about it, and it happened on my phone on the last update.
Yep.
And I tried to do the updates, but I'm not doing iOS 11 until they get some of the bugs out of it.
That's garbage anyway. But
yeah, I haven't heard anything good about it.
It's not very good anyway.
Is there a way to turn off the nag screen?
No, nope.
Just to let you know, Jorvik may not be here. He was telling me this week that he's got problems.
Oh, I thought he travels.
I've got problems.
He said that he was driving.
No,
he was traveling.
Okay, yeah. Thinking about it, he did say he was going down to Oxford.
Yeah, that's right.
But he has been having problems with his iPhone, iPad, and iWatch. He's actually been in contact with Apple.
Yeah.
And they've been calling him back to try and solve the problem. So I thought that may be the reason. But yeah, he's traveling this Sunday. Sorry.
Well,
yeah,
he should have connected him with a genius.
He has. He's been in contact with upper level support.
Well, then he must be doing something wrong.
He updated. What was it? Thursday. He updated his phone, his tablet, and his computer to the new OS, the iOS, whatever, to High Sierra, whatever. And things started breaking down. Something to do with communication with the home automation. The phone will not sync with the computer, with the cloud. None of the machines will sync with the cloud, something. But anyway, he talked to them. They talked to him for about 3 hours, and they decided that there was a bug in the OS, and they gave him the phone number to call, and they took his phone number, and they're looking into it. But as of Friday afternoon, they still did not solve the problem. Yeah. But going back to the iWatch, 2-3 years ago, we had a guest on the show from Berg, B-U-R-G, and Berg, and I still have that watch. The watch had a SIM in it. It has a SIM in it, and you get a phone number with it. So to have a watch that has a SIM in it that is independent of your cell phone is nothing new. It's actually old. And the reason why, I used it for as long as I think it was like 2 months prepaid when they sent it. And after that, you say, what? I'm not going to pay another $30, $40 for another cell line just to have the phone. It's kind of ridiculous. So if that's what Apple is hoping to do to boost the income of the carriers, so to speak, because that's what they'll be doing. I'm sure there'll be some Apple fanboys that will do it and will get another line, but it is ridiculous. There is no reason to do it. You have a phone, and that's it.
Well, there is a reason. I can't think of the use case, but I'm sure there's somebody that has the use case where they, for example, if you go out, I guess maybe if you go out and you run a lot or jog a lot and you don't carry your phone, I guess that would be a use case, I guess, but is that worth $30 a month? I'm not sure. I guess it depends how serious you are.
The other problem with it, with the Berg, I don't know how Apple solved the problem, is that the speaker. It is next to unusable to have the watch as a phone and really carry conversation or it's almost like it came with an earbud, so you had to use that. It's too small to have a speaker that could be usable for a phone conversation. It's just like, listening to music. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here's the music icon. Click it and you can hear music. Give me a break. Come on. What kind of music you going to hear out of a little bitty speaker in a watch? So I think it's a gimmick. I don't know. I mean, people have been running with their phone on their arm and in their pocket and whatever for ages. So I don't know if that's what it is, but maybe you're right. Maybe there is some kind of use. Either that or they ran out of features and they're trying to come up with gimmicks. I don't know. 919.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
There's a use case. There's a use case for somebody. There's somebody that's thinking, oh man, I don't know what people are doing.
No. 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. Call us. Let's discuss this or anything else that's on your mind at this point. There's a lot of stuff we can discuss here. We want you to call in. So let's see. Apple again. Apple top environmental officer made the company's most extensive statements about the repairability of Apple hardware on Tuesday. Our first thought is, you don't need to repair this. Right, Mike? When you do, we want the repair to be fairly priced and accessible to you. Lisa Jackson, Apple's Vice President of Policy and Social Initiative, said. To think about these very complex products and say the answer to all our problem is that you should have anybody to repair and have access to the parts is not looking at the whole problem. Apple has lobbied against fair repair bills in 11 states that would require the company to make its repair guides available and to sell replacement parts to the general public. Instead, it has focused on an authorized service provider model that allows the company to control the price and availability of the repair. So while you can take, I don't know what's the big deal about taking your iPhone and have the glass replaced. You're not asking people to get into the nitty-gritty of the phone. The thing with the home button and other features of the phone, it's okay, right now, this is how you're making your money. You don't want other people to make money because of it, and all right. But there are things that you don't need. I would like to see anybody be able to replace the battery when it goes bad. You break it, and a lot of people break their phone, the glass on the phone. You should be able to walk into any cell phone repair store like all the Androids are doing and have the glass repaired for, I don't know, $29.99. How much is it, Mike? You had it done.
The last time I checked, it was a lot more expensive than that.
Okay. It's probably
like $100, and I think on the one of the Android phones it was $189, as I recall. Okay. And on others they said nope, can't fix it. Not repairable.
Right. There are some that are not repairable. Right. But other companies also have authorized repair center for theirs. But that doesn't mean that you couldn't walk to, with TVs, to any TV repair store, if there are any anymore, and have it worked on. So it kind of sucks, but again, people put up with it. They don't care.
In my experience with TV or monitor repair lately, When I had the last one repaired, I had to search around and find somebody in a back street, somebody that in a residential area that used to be an engineer that actually took them into repair. There's none of the major retailers will take it in. You've got to find somebody, an old engineer that's no longer working to take it in and fix it for you.
Well,
I had an experience yesterday. I went on Craigslist and found a Behringer X1204 USB mixer. The guy wanted $125 for it, which was too much money. I offered him $100 and he took it. I met him and looked at it, and it looked good. It was a little older than he had represented. He said it was in mint condition. It's not. It was in good condition. It wasn't even in excellent condition. It had some sticky stuff on the side of it. And when I got it home, I shook it, and there was something rattling around inside.
Oh, jeez.
So I spent the next 2 hours taking all the screws out and opened it up and found the body of an electrolytic capacitor rolling around inside. I continued to take it apart and found the capacitor that was blown, and it was one channel of 2 on channel 7/8. So I replaced both of them, and now it works fine.
Wow.
Be careful with Craigslist.
Well, it's not Craigslist. It's anywhere you buy something used. You want to be, you want to, first of all, you want to shake it.
No, if you buy it from eBay, you've got a return privilege, and you can put it in contest. If it's on Craigslist, you have to go find them and kill them.
Handle and law will recommend that you just kill them.
Yeah, I mean, it solves the problem.
It does.
So you mean you could have gone, killed him, and their capacitor would have been replaced automatically?
No, I wouldn't have had to pay $100 for it. I could have just taken it. We're joking, folks.
Or maybe not. Give us a call.
Oh, boy.
He's not really.
So...
Okay, hold on, wait. I want to go back to this. Mike, do you believe that this man sold you a broken piece of equipment to try to pawn it off?
I have to believe so because the capacitor exploded.
Yeah, that's very scummy.
Yeah.
Probably was put into the board backwards, or it was just a bad capacitor. The one beside it looked a little bulged, but not enough to cause a problem. And I replaced them with the same value, but a higher voltage, because that was all that I had.
That's very unfortunate that people do shit like that.
Well, I'm not sure. I can't accuse him of it. He seemed like a nice guy. I mean, he was driving an older Lexus, and he lives nearby based on the information he put in Craigslist. And when I suggested a place to meet, he said, that's fine. I'm not far from there. So he could have theoretically left this thing on when he was not at home, and it could have popped when he wasn't there.
True.
But this thing made a popping noise whenever the capacitor exploded.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it made noise like a gun. I remember capacitor blowing in a power supply, an old PC power supply, and I thought somebody in the room shot a gun.
And it depends on the size of the cap and the failure mode, but I mean, it was one of these little small ones. Well,
yep.
Yeah. It was like one of the small ones.
To show you.
I can pick the darn thing up. There's the shell for it, the case for it.
It's a good job you knew which value to put in there and managed to sort it yourself.
Well, I've done that before, like for the last 50 years. And as far as the value, it's written on it. So that wasn't hard. I just didn't have that physical small package. This is 100 microfarads at 6.3 volts, which I don't like 6.3 volt capacitors, because now they can put a 10 volt capacitor in the same case, and you never know what the actual power supply is on some of these things. If it's digital, you know that it's probably 5.9 volts or less, but as like Gary says, it's cheap Chinese junk, so you cannot assume that things will be what you expect.
No. The bottom line and the important part is you fixed it.
As far as I know, I haven't tested everything on it.
Why did you need a 1204?
I didn't have one.
Okay.
Do you have one?
Aren't these the ones that we were using in the beginning?
Probably.
Yeah.
It's a 12.4. Is it? How many? What's that? Like 3 or 4 XLRs?
Yeah, 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have 2 aux sends or just 1?
2.
Cool.
Both post fader.
Nice.
That little one I've got, the 302, is a nice little mixer. It's only got 1 XLR, but you know, it suits me fine for what I want to do. I haven't got the space for a 1204. I'd like to have the space and have one of those, but I just haven't got the room.
Well, I mean, Gary and others like to dog on Behringer, and look, it's cheap Chinese junk, but that's the price you pay for it as well. I will tell you this: if you take one of these apart and look at the circuit boards on them, unlike most cheap Chinese junk, it has a double-sided printed circuit board, or at least plated through holes, which is not normal, and single-sided boards typically have problems, which causes the cheap Chinese junk to live up to its reputation. But I will tell you that the ICs that this thing uses, the actual circuit design, is not much different than the design of some very expensive audio consoles. In fact, I've got one behind me, if you can see over my shoulder here, that sold for $20,000 that has about the same preamps in it that the Behringer does.
Knock on wood, the Behringers that we're using is lasting.
You just switched yours out like a couple weeks ago, didn't you?
No, some time ago, but that was not the reason of the problem. When we found out what the problem was, there was bad connection in some of the, and I forgot what you call them now. Mike, what do we put in line of the audio?
Ground loop isolator.
Ground loop isolator. And that, because after changing it, it was still doing it, but not as bad. But that's because stuff I redid. The other one is sitting on the floor as a backup. So if something happens here, hey. Actually, I really should swap them again and just use 1 year use this, the next year use the other one, and
yeah. Well, the fact that they're this mixer, you can get the ones that you guys use, the 2442 is $350.
Mm-hmm.
You can find them cheaper than that, or you can get the same console from Axia for $8,000.
Oh, but it's IP.
It not only is it IP, but guess where it's made?
China.
There you go.
Ah.
So that is not cheap Chinese junk. That's just Chinese junk.
That's expensive Chinese junk.
Expensive Chinese junk, yeah.
There you go. If you want a good console, you got to go down to Wheatstone and buy one of theirs. Made in Jacksonville, North Carolina.
I need to get up there.
You do.
919-518-9773. Computers 2K Voice on Skype. So let's talk GPS. So then they're talking about new chips, and it says it'll know where you are to within 30 centimeters. That's 11.8 inches, rather than 5 meters. At least that's the claim chipmaker Broadcom is making. It says that some of its next-generation smartphone chips will use new global positioning satellite signals to boost accuracy. In a detailed report on the announcement and how the new signals work, IEEE Spectrum says that the new chips, which are expected to appear in some phone as soon as next year, will also use half the power of today's chips and even work in cities where tower blocks often interfere with existing systems. All told, it sounds like a massive change for those who rely on their phones to find their way. Gosh, 30 centimeters. So,
I'm telling you, that would be very useful.
yeah, very useful. You know, maybe.
Especially,
Go ahead.
because I'm one of those people now. I rely on my phone to get everywhere. I don't know where. I never know where I'm going. I mean, I'm just barely getting used to going to certain places that I travel to frequently. If I didn't have GPS, I'd be screwed.
Yeah, well, I was thinking back a couple of years when Hannah was growing up, if something like this, I'll be able to know if the guy is having his arms around her or
I don't know.
I mean, 30
Never mind.
you can tell a lot of things. Oh, he's at the water fountain. She's I mean, it's 30 centimeters. Is that really necessary?
Well, what would be nice about it? You'd actually be able to it'd actually be able to get you through parking lots. Because GPSs right now don't take you through a parking lot.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Doesn't know what the parking lot is. It just sees it as a blocked off area.
Interesting. Yeah.
Does the iPhone use GPS or is it using cell triangulation?
It'll do both. It uses GPS for GPS, but if the GPS becomes I think if the GPS goes complete if the GPS goes completely out, I think it stays with the GPS because the triangulation is highly inaccurate.
Well, GPS is being used in high-end farm equipment for automated tractors to actually plow rows. It has to be accurate within the width of a row. John Deere has included those in a lot of their farm equipment.
They're very interesting. I mean, it's a great use of technology.
Yeah, a lot of those farms are being farmed without anybody sitting in the tractor too.
Yeah, Dr. John is right. He says if you want an analog GPS, get a paper map.
Yes.
Nick wouldn't be able to read one.
That's not true. I could read a map.
No, you can't.
Absolutely, I can. When I came down to North Carolina the first time, I made sure I got a couple of maps from AAA and made sure I knew exactly where I was going first in case my phone stopped working or I lost it. So, absolutely, I can read a map.
Mike, remember the days to stop at a gas station and pick up a bunch of maps?
Of course. They quit giving them out, and you had to go to AAA.
Yeah.
AAA is still giving them to you for free if you remember.
Well, then it's not free.
Okay.
They'll give it to you for no additional cost.
Correct. Well, I don't pay for it, so it's free to me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So remember last week we were talking about Verizon disconnecting people that used too much data
out in the country.
Yeah. So they're giving a reprieve to some rural customers who are scheduled to be booted off their service plan, but only in cases where customers have no other options for cellular service. And the article went to say that a lot of first responders complained to Verizon because that's the only way that they have to communicate. So a lot of things came together, and they decided they're going to do it on a case-by-case basis instead of just boot them off and once.
There's an issue here.
Yeah.
There's a huge issue here.
Okay.
That doesn't make any sense. The reason these fees were so expensive is because Verizon had to go through another carrier to provide the service because they didn't have a tower in sight.
Right.
So how is it possible that these people didn't have another cell option? Whose towers is Verizon using?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That doesn't make any sense. The roaming charge, the Verizon, they were getting screwed by the roaming charges. But if there's roaming charges, that means there's another tower, somebody else providing bandwidth.
I did not think about this. This is
news.
Very interesting.
It's fake news.
Is this just to get us to talk about Verizon? Huh.
There you go.
Interesting.
I would say no, since the discussion is not particularly positive.
Well, it turns positive when you say, okay, yeah, we're going to change. I mean, and here we are talking about it. Let's stop talking about it. CCleaner. Dr. John sent me a message about CCleaner, and then reading about it is very interesting. There was a problem with their installer, and it was actually malware. So 3.29, I believe. Anyway, if you're using CCleaner, first you had to be targeted, kind of. I mean, they didn't get any information that was very, very important from anybody. But any information, it could be important. But the thing is that by upgrading your CCleaner, you are doing away with the infection. It was the DLL that is getting replaced every time.
So how does that happen? I mean, you got to admire CCleaner for keeping their product up to date,
Right.
but good grief, every time you run it, you have to update it.
Well, you don't really have to upgrade it, but you should. The only reason you want to upgrade it is because of the registry cleaner, which you should not use every time. If you're just using it to delete temporary files and clean junk files, you can use a 3-year-old CCleaner. It'll still go and remove those files because it doesn't matter. It knows to go to this folder and delete and this folder and delete. So that's not that important. But if you do the registry cleaning, then it has to have all the latest information from Microsoft, from Windows. But to think about this, they were saying that the author was saying, said, just think if they could do this, then next time they can go after your financial files. Right now they didn't. Maybe it was a dry run. I don't know.
Brent says it only affected 32-bit operating systems.
That's
as well.
true. That's right. It was 32-bit. Is that because the malware writers were not good coders and they didn't know how to deal with 64? I don't know. But it's very interesting that they went with that. And the other thing about 32-bit is that they figured that maybe the 32-bit is being used by XPs and lower. I think 64 is not just more powerful than 32. I think it's also more secured in some way. So I don't know if that's what it was, but it's a fact. It was a mess up. It was a mess up because somebody obviously didn't do their job.
Well, how did it happen?
Somebody injected a new piece of information.
Inside job?
Could be. I mean, you don't expect them to tell you.
Mike.
Russians?
It was not the Russians. I doubt it was the Russians.
I'm sure it had to be the Russians. They're responsible for 100% of the hacking in the United States.
Yep.
You were saying that you were getting fed up with the updates. Every time you run it, you've got to update. What I do with mine is I right-click the recycle bin and just run it, and then I just update maybe once a month manually.
Mm-hmm.
But if you actually open, as soon as you open CCleaner, it checks and says, "Oh, there's a new update available." If you actually just run it from recycle bin rather than open it, you won't have to keep having this pop up all the time.
So Alan is saying that all too often there were fake installer ads on sites offering the program for download. I mean, that I understand, and that's why I try to pay attention to get it from places like Major Geeks and some that from what I can tell, are reputable. But for CCleaner to step up and say it was our problem, I have to believe that this issue came out of CCleaner.
I don't know. The articles that I read did not get into too much detail about this, or maybe I just scanned through it and didn't see it.
Did I read somewhere that Piriform was bought out by somebody?
Avast. Oh no,
Avast, that was it. Yeah.
is it? Yeah, that's right. It's Avast. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I didn't realize that until I actually read the article, and I thought, oh, I didn't realize they'd been bought out.
Yeah. So we were talking about Jorvik had problems. Here's another problem here. Over the last day or two, several Mac users appear to have been locked out of their machines after hackers signed into their iCloud accounts and initiated a remote lock using
Fake news.
Find My iPhone. It is? Of course, yeah, it's iPhone. Yeah. With access,
real.
With access, so they were using Find My iPhone. With access to an iCloud user's username and password, Find My iPhone on iCloud.com can be used to lock a Mac with a passcode, even with two-factor authentication turned on. And that's what's going on here. Affected users who have had their iCloud accounts hacked are receiving messages demanding money for the passcodes to unlock a locked Mac device. The usernames and passwords of the iCloud accounts affected by this hack were likely found through various site data breaches and have not been acquired through a breach of Apple servers. Impacted users.
I mean, that's really pretty smart because, I mean, and these Apple fanboys, whenever they run into a problem like that, they'll never admit it publicly. They'll just throw their phone in the trash can and go buy a new one. I mean, it's only $1,200. That's actually brilliant. That's kind of like
rolling right along.
Well, no. That's like catching people using their credit cards at adult stores and locations. I mean, you catch them at it, and it's not like they're going to admit it publicly.
But you catch it.
What was that? What was that deal? It was credit card fraud that somebody would go to I don't even remember what it was now. Was it one of these sex shops or something like that? Anyway, maybe even a prostitute where they take credit cards and they run the charge up for even more than the agreed upon price. And the reason they do it is because these people aren't going to go to the credit card company. That's more than that prostitute agreed to charge me.
Well, with Square, anybody can take a credit card now. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Brilliant. But what they're saying here that, and this we need to pay attention to and change the way that we're doing things. Impacted users likely use the same email address, account name, and password for multiple accounts, allowing people with malicious intent to figure out their iCloud details. So you really need to have a password strategy that will eliminate the possibility of somebody getting or figuring out what your password is. So just think about it. 919-518-9773. Computers 2K Voice on Skype. Next. Let's see. Everybody heard about, maybe Nick is going to use it, that Walmart new marketing idea?
Oh, yeah, this is fantastic.
It is, isn't it? You would let him in. Yeah, well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I won't let them in my house when I'm not here.
Oh, well, when I'm not there, no.
Well, that's the whole idea, is that they can come anytime.
Well, no, you can also have it when you're there. Go ahead. What is this new service?
So
what is this new magical service?
Going to the store, no one has time for that anymore. So they want to partner with a company called August Home, makes smart locks. So a delivery service can literally deliver groceries right into your refrigerator. while you watch remotely on your phone. Great time-saving idea or super creepy invasion of your privacy? You decide. So yeah, they were showing how it works, and the lock would open, and the guy would walk in and go to your refrigerator and put the stuff in there and walk out.
Steal all your stuff.
Huh?
And steal all your stuff.
Well, I don't, they're being watched, so they could, if they wanted to, steal a bunch of stuff. Absolutely.
Print out a picture of your room and put it in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Steal all your stuff. I don't know.
You've been watching Mission Impossible, huh?
Maybe.
Yeah. Mike.
No, I would not.
Mike, would you let him in?
All joking aside.
That could be unhealthy for them to come into my house. That's not a good idea.
Yeah.
To answer your question is no.
No, absolutely not. But there's, again, it's gimmicks that they try when they're competing with Amazon, and they want to come up with something new.
Absolutely. And there's some people that really don't care about this.
Right. Right.
You might want to, if you ever get an opportunity, talk to some of the UPS and FedEx delivery guys about some of their residential deliveries. They have some really interesting stories to tell.
Okay. You have one to tell us? I know you're not a delivery.
I'm serious. Just if you ever get an opportunity to shoot the breeze with one of these guys, just ask them. They can tell you about all the women who come to the door naked.
Yeah, they don't have time to talk. They always rush.
Well, now they throw it from the street.
Yeah, no. They just lob it up onto the third story of the apartment complex.
Mm. And here's somebody who, again, we're going back to Apple, who has complaints. The iPhone X does not need Face ID. Apple could have easily put a Touch ID sensor on the back of the phone for authentication. Who doesn't place their finger on the back of their phone? He says, I mean, imagine how cool it would be to put your finger on the Apple logo on the back of your iPhone for Touch ID. It would have been a highly marketable product feature that is equally as effective as Face ID without the escalating Orwellian privacy implication. For Face ID to work, the iPhone X actually has to scan faces looking for its owner when locked. This means anyone within several foot range of an iPhone X will get their face scanned by other people's phones, and that's just creepy. These guys are going to build a database of face recognition like the world has never seen.
Is my video frozen, Amnon? Oh, no, there it is.
No, you. Good morning.
Morning, Amnon. It's Mike in Fuquay Arena.
Hello, Mike in Fuquay Arena.
Got a question and some information to pass on.
Okay.
Information number one. I did a bunch of Windows updates last week, one of which was that cumulative update. I don't remember the number of it, but it caused me two separate problems and on two separate machines. Number one, supposedly it's a security update, but what it did, number one, was to put the search bar back in Internet Explorer 11. I use IE 11. I didn't want it, but it just put it in.
Okay.
Second thing it did was I do a manual full scan of Defender on weekends. I wasn't here last weekend, so I didn't do it for 2 weeks. When I tried to do it this past week, the Defender Security Center was completely blank, except for there's like 5 icons in a horizontal row. The icons were there, but there was absolutely no writing in the Security Center.
Okay.
And if you clicked on one of the icons, the Security Center just closed. I did one of those SFC runs with Scan Now.
Right.
It didn't fix anything. So the only thing I thought of was to uninstall that major update, and it did fix both problems. I don't know if anybody else has come in up with a problem on that, but
are you saying that was the update for Defender, not the complete update?
No, this was like a 1 gigabyte cumulative security update.
Because I remember seeing an update to Defender.
No, this was not a specific Defender update. This was. Let me see if I can find the number here.
That's okay.
It's 4038788. And I had to uninstall it to fix the 2 problems. And this, like I said, was on 2 different machines. But that's just something to pass along. The question I have, someone gave me a 240 gig SSD hard drive. And I want to try to put it in my machine. Right now I have a 1 terabyte hard drive. What's the procedure that I would follow? I have a backup using a terabyte. But if I remember right, if I tried to do a restore, it's going to tell me that the new drive is too small.
I did the similar thing a couple of years ago. You pretty much have to rebuild your whole setup. There's no good way to go from. I would recommend just putting an SSD in the computer when you would put Windows on the SSD, and then you would put your files and programs and such on the terabyte hard drive.
Well, I've got like 55 gigabytes, so I'm going to put the whole thing on the SSD.
Well, here's what I would do since you're using terabyte, which there are supposedly some functions built into terabyte that will allow the image to be rescaled to the target. I have never had that work well. And what I do in this situation, depending on what the layout on the drive is, I go to the main, there's always this little tiny sliver at the beginning of the drive, almost always. You ignore that. They go to the middle one, in which your case, it might be, say, 800 gigabytes. And depending on which terabyte tool you have, you can actually shrink that partition down to, say, 200 gigabytes, since you don't have that much data. But
That's
then
what
you have to do. Say again?
That's one of the questions I had. Can I go in and shrink the C drive to like 200 gigabytes and then back that up?
But you have to be careful. You have to be careful because you have to, once you shrink the main partition, the C partition, if there is still another partition on the drive after that, then you have to slide that partition to the end of the C partition such that the overall start to finish size of the drive is less than 250 gigabytes. Now, I've never had that not work, but some of this stuff you got to be real careful with because of the UEFI BIOSes and all sorts of things. What I'm getting to is before you start screwing around with that, make sure you have a full backup of the hard drive.
Yeah, I do that at least once a week.
And so do that before you start. Then it really doesn't matter what you do. But so what that means is you shrink the big partition down to 200 gigabytes or less. Then you slide the end partition, if there is one, you slide it up against the C partition. then you can actually do a copy from that drive to the new drive. You don't even have to do an image and then a restore. These terabyte tools will actually do a copy. Once you do that, then you go back into the SSD, you slide that partition to the end of the drive, and then you expand the C partition to use the available space.
Okay.
Now,
that's what I
these
was
tools,
thinking I would wind up doing.
Well, these tools, they claim that there's a way that it will do it, and I posted in their forum, which is pretty good usually. I posted in the forum to explain to me in simple language how it would work. And the comment that one of them made was, well, it works some of the time, and I'm not interested in that. Now,
No.
I understand, Amnon and Nick, that there are some other tools out there. Acronis, I believe, is one that Steve uses.
Me too.
That will do this stuff automatically.
Acronis? I see in the chat there's something called Acronis True Image.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one that I use, and it has a clone facility. I recently went from a spinning disk to SSD and did what Mike was saying to maneuver the partitions about so that it was less than the 240. Obviously, you can't go from a terabyte drive if it's got over 240. But I just used the clone facility of Acronis True Image. It did the clone. The computer went to reboot. I shut it down, swapped over took out the hard drive, and let it boot from SSD, and it was as if it had always been there.
Is there like a 30-day trial of that True Image available?
As far as I understand, you get a 30 days trial. Yes.
Okay. And I can try downloading that and see what happens.
Well, but what Steve just said, though, there's not any benefit of it over terabyte, which you already have. The disadvantage of terabyte is it's a little geeky. You got to know what you're doing. If you understood my explanation, terabyte will do everything you want it to do.
But I kind of got the impression from what Steve said is that he didn't have to repartition the drive.
I think he said he did.
True Image
didn't you,
would
Steve?
do what was necessary.
Now, on the hard drive, make the partitions. Certainly, you said your C partition was less than 200.
Right now, it's
And
a terabyte or about 900.
No, but that's
But
the space that's available. He's talking about your actual content was less than 200.
About 55 gigs, something
Right.
like that.
Right.
Yeah, if it's
So you're
55,
saying
well,
that
you
with
can-
True Image, I would have to repartition also.
Well, you're not repartitioning. You're changing the size of the partitions. The partitions are being copied
that's what
to
I
the
meant.
new drive.
Bad
Well,
choice
there's a
of
big
words.
difference there because if you start partitioning drives and doing it, you can get lost in a hurry. I mean, that stuff is really, really geeky, and the idea of the tool is to not have to be that geeky about it. The only criticism I have of terabyte is that it is geeky, but it's like anything else. Once you get the hang of it, it's not a big deal.
Right.
if
Okay.
you've got a
All right, I'll
terabyte-
give that a shot. I'll make a big full backup of the hard drive. Then I'll try shrinking the C drive to like 200 gig and try the True Image and see what happens.
If you've got a terabyte drive, but it's only one partition, and you've only got 55 gig in it, then it will just work without having to do any repartitioning or messing around. It will just clone and then automatically resize the drive.
Well, that's what
I
we
would-
were asking. And you're saying that True Image does that? It will automatically automatically resize the partition?
Yeah, it only
Yeah.
looks at if it's one partition. If you've got two, then you may have to mess around.
Okay.
If it's just one hard drive is drive C, then all it looks at is the data chunk of 55 gigabytes, and it will just chuck it onto the SSD with no messing around at all.
Okay, I thought it would tell me that the new drive is too small. I mean, I haven't tried it, but that's what I thought would happen.
No,
I think
no.
that
If
happens.
it's less than the capacity of the drive, then it just resizes the partition to fit in the 240 because you've only got one partition with 55 gig of data. All it looks at is the 55 gig of data, and it'll just go, well, that's all right, there's 55 gig. I've got 240 gig there. Easy, that'll just slide straight across.
Oh, I got my fingers crossed that works.
It does.
Okay.
It does.
That makes me feel better.
And Ghost was doing the same thing. It didn't care that the drives are two different sizes. You could have the original as 1 terabyte and the target is 100 gig. If you had less than 100 gig on the source, it will copy it and it will be fine and it will be bootable and everything. You didn't have to play. But I know with the Terabyte Unlimited, you have to play around with it, like Mike said. And it really, when you think about it, clone means it's going to take and make an exact drive. They should have called it data cloning. Just the data is being cloned.
Okay.
But they're not really mirroring those drives because, yeah, it's a smaller drive. But it works. Yeah, you can, when Steve is talking about Acronis, you can do it and let it do it automatically, which is by default, it comes up like that. Or you can click manually and then it tells you, okay, do you want the target drive to be 244 gig, or do you want it to just put the stuff in there and do it? I mean, you always just go with the automatic and it does it by itself.
What
All
I would
right, I'll
suggest
give it a
is,
shot. We'll see what happens.
All right.
If you see smoke
Okay.
rising over this town, you'll know it's me.
Yep.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right.
I would.
What were you going to say, Steve?
I was going to say, I would recommend it on that screen where you're doing the clone. It says shut down computer when action is complete or process is complete, something like that.
Yeah.
I recommend you click that. Then when your computer shuts down, unplug the HD, the hard drive, so that only your SSD is there. Then when your BIOS comes in, it'll see that there's a SSD there, no other hard drive, and it'll boot from that as if that, was always the case.
Yeah, I'd echo Steve's thing because I remember when I was switching over to my SSD, I was tried to go into BIOS and boot from the hard drive, or boot from the SSD, and I thought I'd booted from the SSD, but I was still on the hard drive. Just unplug everything but your SSD, and if it boots, you're on the right drive. There's no guessing.
Yep.
Of course, you
Okay.
can go into the BIOS and tell it to, as the first boot device will be SSD.
Well,
if you're familiar with BIOS, then do that manually.
The problem
But
you
if
run
you're not
into
with it,
is if you've got the second hard drive has an OS on it, if the SSD is corrupt and it's not bootable, sometimes it'll boot to the other drive without notifying you, and then you think you're in. That's the issue I had.
Well, you can
I
make
see.
the second drive inactive, the
Yeah,
boot partition inactive, then it can't boot to it.
that
If you
and
wanna
that's
leave it in.
yeah, and that's what the that's why I just unplugged it. But
That's
then it
it.
worked, so then I plugged it back in and I was good to go.
All right, I've got something here that I would like for everyone to pay attention to. I do this once a year. I haven't done it in 2 years, and here we go. Just indulge me. Amnon and I are both very much committed to diabetes research. My daughter-in-law is type 1 diabetic. Amnon's daughter is type 1 diabetic. It is an insidious disease. It is a horrible way to have to live, dragging your life around in a patch or sticking a needle in the side of your body for life. And the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation is working really hard to try to find, they say, a cure. I don't know, Amnon may feel differently, but I don't think they're going to find a cure near time. That's not my motivation. My motivation is that they are making great strides in technology to make the lives of people who are suffering from type 1 to be more normal. And before you tune out to this, just here's some of the things you'll see on the link on the page I'm going to post. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease that comes on suddenly. It strikes both children and adults at any age. Anyone listening to me right now, all it takes is a virus to hit your pancreas and you're toast. Type 1 has nothing to do with diet or lifestyle. Those living with type 1 must carefully balance insulin doses with eating and daily activities throughout the day and night. In fact, whenever my daughter-in-law, whenever her blood sugar gets out of whack, she has to set an alarm clock to wake up at night every 2 hours to check her glucose level. And that makes for a long day. Those living with type 1 must test their blood sugar by pricking their fingers for blood 6 or more times a day if they don't have a pump with continuous monitoring, which is one of the areas where the research money is being spent. So what I would ask, I'm a friend of mine, Beth Knott, who has 2 nephews who are type 1, and she's ultimately made other friends who are type 1. She participates in a one walk with the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Her name is Beth Knott. I'm going to put the link in chat, and her goal is to raise $2,500. She's only raised $1,625. I'm donating today. It's only a week left, and it says donate to Beth. The money's not going to Beth. It's going to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. It's just she's the one who's out stirring up the noise to get people to donate. You can do it anonymously, or you can put your name in there to do it. That's okay. And I mean, I just would ask you to consider doing that. We don't come here often and ask you to do these things. Amnon, I'm assuming you share my enthusiasm for this research.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. If it ever happens to you or someone you care about, you will be in here helping us sing the praises. So I would say let's be a little proactive. Let's try to do what we can to help the situation. Again, I don't think, you know what, if a pancreas is dead, I don't know how they're going to bring it back to life, but I do know how they can come up with some very sophisticated equipment to monitor and manage the disease. And Gary says he's going to give $1,000. So that's fantastic. All right. So I posted the link in chat. It's the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. I would ask you to please consider making a donation. It may be money pissed away, but I don't think so.
No, it's not pissed away. And Mike, yeah, I do feel different about a cure. I don't know if it'll be in our lifetime, because as long as these companies make money selling the drugs and the supplies, they don't want that to dry out. But Hannah,
seen the price of strips lately?
No.
They've gone through the roof, about like that EpiPen.
Jeez.
People are buying diabetic test strips on the side of the road in RTP so they can resell them.
No, you see, I'm type 2. And I guess I'm lucky and Hannah's lucky because we have insurance. But the thing is, Hannah now goes to NC State for electrical engineering, but really it's a stepping stone she's going to use, because what she wants to get into is 3D organ printing. And she's reading a lot. She sends me stuff every now and then. And what she wants to do is she wants to be able to 3D print a live pancreas that could be transplanted into a human body. Again, it may not be in our lifetime or her lifetime, but it has to go somewhere, because
but here's my point though, Amnon. That's great. Absolutely endorse that research 10,000%.
Yeah.
But what we do know is with miniaturization of electronics, miniaturization of mechanical pumps, sensors that accurately, effectively, in real time monitor glucose levels, we can give these people a quality of life now.
Sure.
And it takes money, miniaturization. If Apple had put 2% of the effort into miniaturization of diabetes control, glucose control equipment that they put into an iPhone, we'd be done with this thing, at least for a while. We wouldn't be as in big of a hurry for it. But the fact is that It's a very expensive process. A lot of people have it, and unfortunately, a lot of times too many people wait until they're affected before they try to help out. And look, I get it. There's an unlimited number of people asking for money for things, and most of them are probably very worthwhile and legitimate. But if you ever know anyone who's type 1 who's real honest with you and doesn't try to minimize the optics of the disease, it's horrible, absolutely horrible. It's one of the worst curses that you can get. I mean, even if you get cancer, depending on the kind, you've got a certain amount of time, but having to carry around this ball and chain with you and get it right all the time is tough. It's really tough. And my heart goes out to these people, and it could happen, and very well could easily might happen to anyone sitting here listening to what I'm saying, because what causes type 1 amnon, from what I'm understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a doctor, but from what I understand is a virus actually attacks the pancreas. It's an autoimmune disease, typically a virus that gets in there and destroys or severely cripples the pancreas. And if you say, well, how do I get the virus? You ever had the flu? You ever had a cold? These are just viruses. You get the right kind of virus and boom, gone.
Well, they're still not agreeing on all this. The main belief is that it's just the body autoimmune system is attacking, thinking that it's a virus, which kills the pancreas. But who knows? I mean, it may turn out to be just like people that have ulcers. Oh, just
bacteria.
Yeah, and then you just give them some antibiotics and it's gone. I remember people that had to change their way of life back 40, 50 years ago in order to live with an ulcer.
I don't understand why there's not a pancreas transplant.
I have no idea. I think they're saying that it's the body will attack it again, and taking the anti-rejection and all that is you don't gain anything by having it a transplant. You're better off with just giving yourself insulin. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. That's why we give. I'm sorry, Steve.
So I was told it's because it's very difficult to get to.
That's true too. Yeah, it's way in the back. That's true too. I read that too. You're right. That's why it's a whole lot easier, like you said, Mike, and more important to give the money so it'll go to that research and let the professionals that want to solve the problem come up with a solution versus the pharma and big pharma and all these people that are just making money.
And this organization is driven by people who are affected by it and understand the disease. It's not just, from what I can tell, it's not an organization like some of the bigger disease organizations that are so large and so isolated from the research that they burn up 80% of the money in management fees and then send little token donations to some researcher somewhere who's their brother-in-law. So please, I posted a link in chat. I would ask that if you can spare $5, $10, $100. Gary's given 1,000. I'm not going to match him, but that's a good thing, and I really hope that you would consider doing so. It's on the honor system. No tracking if you don't want it. So.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike, and thanks, Gary. That's very, very, very nice. All right, Nick. I don't understand.
I've got something.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
So we talked about this a couple of years ago. What you're seeing right now is, I think we talked about this last year or the year before. Yahoo purchases the right to broadcast an NFL game every year. This game is not broadcast on television. It's not broadcast on DirecTV. It's not broadcast on cable. Yahoo purchases the right to the game that they do in London every year. And there's probably hundreds of thousands of people watching this right now. The page loads extremely fast. The video quality is incredibly high. It looks better than it does off looking on the TV. So Yahoo's got their streaming system configured properly, because they've done this a couple years in a row now, and the stream looks fantastic. So thought it was some interesting technology there. I'll post a link in chat if anybody's interested.
Now you're gonna get a YouTube takedown.
I'm wondering. I was wondering the same thing. We'll see. No, it's not a takedown. It's just a, hey, you used that. Okay, fine.
But it's always interesting when these people try to stream, because streaming doesn't scale like everybody thinks. I mean, the UFC had a huge issue. And yes, Monterey, somebody did take a knee during the national anthem, of course, as we do now in this country. Well, it's not even in this country. It's in London for if that means anything. But this streaming thing is always interesting because it's always a disaster. Like the UFC had the big, boxing had the big pay-per-view a couple of weeks ago, and the stream went down. They had to delay the start of the match. The pay-per-view system actually crashed on a bunch of cable systems. So it's interesting. And Yahoo's done this. I think this is the third or fourth year doing it in a row, and looks pretty good. So interesting technology.
Yep. So here's something that I don't understand. What's the big deal about? I mean, why do they waste their time on this? David Rubenstein asked Microsoft founder Bill Gates to account for one of the most baffling questions of the digital era. Why does it take 3 fingers to lock or log into a PC? And why did Gates ever think that was a good idea? Grimacing slightly, Gates deflected responsibility for the Control-Alt-Delete key command, saying, clearly the people involved should have put another key on to make that work. Rubenstein pressed him, does he regret the decision? And he says, you can't go back and change the small things in your life without putting the other things at risk. But if I could make one small edit, I would make that a single key operation. Gates has made the confession before in 2013. He blamed IBM for the issue, saying the guy who did the IBM keyboard design didn't want to give us our single button. I would hate to see a single button that will do Control-Alt-Delete. Now, today, Control-Alt-Delete doesn't do much. Back when, Control-Alt-Delete will reboot your computer. So, yeah, you couldn't hit it by mistake. Today, all it does is...
more sensible.
Say again?
It would have been more sensible to have a Control-Alt spacebar, perhaps.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, I mean, but it couldn't be a one key back then. Today, yes. Back then, no.
I don't think I want it as a one key now. I mean,
no.
Yeah,
one
because
key would be a nightmare. Imagine hitting it accidentally.
Yeah, but all it'll do is it'll open your task manager, which,
Well, no. Control-Alt-Delete brings you to the Windows screen where it says lock computer,
yeah, that's
sleep
true
computer,
too.
task manager.
Yeah.
It's not like pressing the Windows key that brings up the thing. It full on will lock up your computer.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about this. You're right. It's the menu. Yeah. So anyway, Bill Gates said
at least on Windows 10 it is.
He would like to see one key. So
this Bill Gates did?
Is Bill Gates what?
Is that Bill Gates that said he wanted to see one key, or somebody else on Microsoft?
No, Bill Gates says. Gates said,
well, he's just stupid.
He said, sure, if I could make one small edit, I would make that a single key operation. I don't know. But I thought that was interesting that people are even questioning that and that it's, This is the most baffling question of the digital era. You know, well,
Oh, God. Get over it.
yep. All right. Equifax again.
I got something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll go on. I've got something. I came across a problem a friend was having.
Get closer
She
to the
had
mic.
Oh, sorry. Is that better now? I'm on.
Yes, sir. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. She had a problem with the keyboard. The keyboard just decided to stop working. It was a wired keyboard plugged straight in, and the lights just stopped working. And it was really, well, I don't understand this. So, but luckily they had the on-screen keyboard, so that wasn't too much of an issue. But couldn't understand why. So they went out and bought a USB keyboard, plugged the dongle in, paired up the dongle. It said it was there, but it wouldn't work. Just the keyboard just would not work at all. And they tried everything they could, and I sort of went through and said, well, delete the keyboard, let it find it as a new piece of hardware, and it would find it, and it would install the keyboard drivers, blah, blah, blah. Push came to shove, it was worked out that it was it was because of the last update. So they uninstalled the last update.
Yeah.
Keyboard miraculously started working again. So they then installed the last update, or did the Windows update, and for some reason it looked like the update didn't complete properly. But on the next go of it, it did complete properly, and the keyboard was working again. So if something appears to stop working, uninstall the last update, give that a try, let it update again. That might fix your problem.
Huh. I mean, it's funny you should mention it, because I had the same problem yesterday when we were Nick and I were working on setting up this machine, and suddenly I think my keyboard is not working. So I had to unplug it and plug it back, and it started working again. But it was, you don't think about it. Anyway, who's calling in?
Hi, this is Eric. How you doing?
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Good, good. So I just got a new Android phone, and I had everything backed up with my Google account.
Yeah.
And so when I go into my apps, I see installed library, and I have like 100 apps from the old phone that are sitting here in a ready, like an installed state that I would have to go through individually. Is there a way to do a bulk restore on this phone, or do I have to select each app separately?
I don't know. Anybody else? Anybody?
No.
No?
A second.
Somebody in the chat.
I don't know of a way to do it in a bulk go all at once. As far as I understand it, you've got to do it individually, but I might be wrong. There might be something out there that'll do it for you.
Okay. Well, yes, if someone figures it out, or I'll watch the chat line and see if there's a solution, because it's rather tedious to go through each time, and so you would think that there would be some way to do it all at once.
Yeah, absolutely would be. Yeah, I think Nick is looking.
What did you back up the phone with? Did you use like titanium backup, or is it just backed up with Google?
No, just with Google. I did not use titanium. Yeah.
I think then you have to manually reinstall all of them, which is a pain. But I think iOS is the same thing, if I remember correctly.
Okay. Do you have to have the phone cracked to use titanium, or is it?
You would have had to use titanium before. You would have had to do a titanium. I think it does need to be cracked, but you would have had to back it up with titanium and then restore it with titanium. I think. Don't quite. It's been a while since I've done.
Sure. Okay.
Now, according to this guy on some Android form, did you set it up as a new phone when you configured it?
Well, no. I'm sorry. When I went to set it up, I did select restore from Google account. I typed in my my Google address, and so, like I said, I see all of the apps here in my apps in the library, but they aren't installed until I click on the little install button here.
According to this guy, when you set up the phone, it should, once you log into your Google account, the app should automatically start installing. And then people are asking how they can make it do it, and they say that Google doesn't allow it. So this guy's saying it's another one of Google's famous half-finished project, which is not surprising. Because I remember having to do this myself, and it was a huge pain. And I don't remember if I ever figured it out, if I just said screw it and just manually did them all.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well,
right.
Thanks for checking. Appreciate it.
Thanks
Alrighty,
for
have a
calling.
good day.
Throw something in chat.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Yeah, what phones definitely need is a backup and restore facility, like an image to image. That would make life so much easier. Having to go through and install 15 different apps one by one is just mind-numbing. Go make a flask of tea and sit down to your tasks.
I'll give you Apple's backups are very nice. They're practically images. I did that about 1 million times, and those worked out pretty well. But I always remember Google's being a colossal pain.
Actually, the comment you made I thought was very good. Google's half-finished products. They are terrible about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was even talking to somebody else about Google and their stuff this week about it's just everything they do is just half-baked. It's astonishing.
Okay.
Yeah, Gene makes the point in chat saying Windows 10 updates do change settings on machines, but the hideous thing is that they affect various machines in various ways. Nothing is consistent, and that's absolutely true. But that's what I thought when I saw this issue this week. If all else fails and you can't figure it out, it could be a Windows update. So it doesn't hurt to uninstall the last update, do a reboot, and then it will always come back and say, this update is now available again. And if it was the update that's causing the problem, then great, it's fixed it, it's sorted it out. It'll update and hopefully it'll continue and actually complete like it's supposed to, and the problem's gone away. But it's certainly something to bear in mind when you're experiencing difficulties that you can't figure out.
To the next update, it's going to force you to do another update. We use Windows 10 in the radio station business 24/7. And the Windows updates are just killer. They just, you need to do this within the next 30 days. If you don't, we're going to do it for you. All of a sudden, the radio station's off the air.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it works great.
Well, you know what? The issues that you get sometimes with updates, like Gene's talking about, that is unfortunately the price you pay when you have an open operating system where you can install the video card you want, the RAM you want, the motherboard, the case. When there's a million factors, you have, unfortunately, that's what you're into. I mean, you can go and you can buy a Mac and you don't have issues with updates, but they support only 3 products. They support their laptop product, their desktop iMac product, and their trash can product. They don't support anything else.
Yeah, and not only that, but you get processors that are older than my retired laptop, which has an i7 quad core that I retired 4 years ago.
Yes, but the point being, of course, there's less things to check when they're QAing an update. I mean, it's
in other words, if you don't need it to do anything, it's easier to keep it working.
You'll always find that the update will go perfectly on a machine you're not really worried about, and you haven't got anything to do that day. If the update happens and it's something important you've got to do, it's going to mess up, guaranteed.
So we can go back and there's more bad news about Equifax that came out. For nearly 2 weeks, Equifax official Twitter account has been directing users to a fake lookalike website. After announcing the breach, Equifax directed its customers to EquifaxSecurity2017.com, a website where they can enroll in identity theft protection services and find updates about how Equifax is handling the cybersecurity incidents. Instead, they sent them on the Twitter account to securityequifax2017.com. So somebody created a website. Fortunately, it wasn't really a malware or a malicious site, but he got the other domain name, and it got into Twitter, into their Twitter account. This is, it's, you know, said, oh, yeah, well, they were really swamped and they had a lot of problems, so somebody could have overlooked it. When it comes to something like this, I would say, you know, this is where malicious websites get something that is spelled a little bit different, and they get you. They should have gotten, I mean, with this kind of long name.
They should be out of business.
Well, yeah, but they should have gotten the Security Equifax also, because it's easy to make a mistake. And talking about that, there was something also that where a few weeks ago, Nissan on their Twitter account sent people, instead of the buynissan.com or whatever
DriveNissan.com.
they actually sent them to Nissan.com.
Perfect.
Which is the one that my brother owns, that had all the problems with them. And it was bombarded, which is nice. It's a lot of traffic. But the thing is, somebody was sitting there and didn't think about it. And when I talked to him, I said, you see, you need to get in touch with somebody there, even though the case is over. This is how even the people there thinking. They want Nissan.com. So try to work something out. Get some money for it.
Dealing with ego.
Yeah.
Ego is the hardest problem to overcome in any negotiation. It's people will go to their death over their ego.
Yeah.
I just help me understand why anyone would entrust their future financial security to Equifax after they immediately demonstrated that they are totally incompetent to manage secure data.
You don't have a choice.
Sure you do.
You absolutely do not.
Oh, really?
If you go right now, and I learned this on a podcast I was listening to about Equifax. If you, in the last couple of years, ever signed up, if you signed up for a credit card, a new credit card, those credit card companies were in turn signing you up for Equifax to track your credit. You weren't even signing up for it. There was no indication that that's what was happening. They were literally signing you up for Equifax. It wasn't.
That's not what I was saying.
Okay.
I'm talking about a credit monitoring service. No one here, unless they've signed up for credit monitoring, has chosen to do business with Equifax.
Correct.
They are a Hotel California. They go out and grab information and resell it, that they really ought to be prosecuted for collecting that information.
Yeah, and besides, there are two others, right?
Oh, yes.
3 others.
3 others?
Yeah, one of them's not so big.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not like they're the only game in town. So, I don't know, Mike. It's a good question.
Well, I only ask good questions, but if you do some research on the topic, you will see some of the vitriol against them, and some of the comments are written by some pretty smart people about you want me to sign up for a service to protect my credit after you just blew my information. and they had this website where they put these terms and conditions in the website that if you went to check to see if your information was given out, that you waived your opportunity to participate in a class action lawsuit against them. The Attorney General of New York came down on them and said, you can put it on your website if you want to, but it will not be enforced in the state of New York. And so they took it off their website, supposedly.
Well, they rescinded
Yes, I heard
it.
that as well.
I mean, that's just slimy.
Oh, it's very slimy.
They need to be put out of business. This is not acceptable to give out people's information like that.
My bank, which is one of my banks, which is the credit union in New York, they on their homepage they had a big notification when you went to their site about the Equifax hack, and it had a link to that Equifax, whatever the hell, their Equifax2017security.com or whatever it was. I called the bank and asked to speak to somebody. I gave them an earful. I said, "You're directing people to a website where Equifax is waiving their rights to act in a lawsuit." I mean, it was just the incompetence of everybody felt the need to send people to this stupid website. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous.
Yep. So here's something else that's kind of interesting. Turning off Bluetooth and Wi-Fi when you're not using them on your smartphone has long been standard. Common sense advice. But unfortunately, with the iPhone's new operating system, iOS 11, which was released to the general public yesterday, that's from last week, turning them off is not as easy as it used to be. Now, when you toggle Bluetooth and Wi-Fi off from the phone's control center, the somewhat confusing menu that appears when you swipe up from the bottom of the phone, it actually doesn't completely turn them off. While that might sound like a bug, that's actually what Apple intended in the new operating system. But security researchers warn that users might not realize this and, as a consequence, could leave Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on without noticing. Why would Apple want you to leave your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on, even if you think that you turned them off? When you choose to turn them off, why?
That article seems a little misleading.
Okay.
The notification center is different now. And that's why they said the menus are confusing. They're just different. I mean, it's just different. They've completely changed what the system looks like. I think that has something to do with it.
Well,
but
I don't have an iPhone, so I don't know.
I mean, they've made the notification thing now is like a whole big. It's like a notification set. It looks similar to how it does on the computer. It's got a similar look.
Okay. So are you saying it's not a problem or it is a problem?
Well, it might be, but I mean, there's a way to turn off the Bluetooth. And now what they might be doing, which I would be okay with, is when you turn off Bluetooth, it might keep a low power version of Bluetooth on, which wouldn't bother me. But
they're already killing the battery life, and forcing you to keep Bluetooth on when you don't use it, like I don't, is just further deteriorating the performance of the battery.
Let's see. What else do we have here to talk about? So, first, Equifax gives out that information, and now, login credentials of more than 500,000 records belonging to vehicle tracking device company SVR Tracking have leaked online, potentially exposing the personal data and vehicle details of drivers and businesses using its service. Just 2 days ago, Viacom was found exposing the keys to its kingdom on an unsecured Amazon S3 server. And this data breach is yet another example of storing sensitive data on a misconfigured cloud server. The Chromtech Security Center was first to discover a wide-open, public-facing, misconfigured Amazon Web Server, AWS, S3 cloud storage bucket containing a cache belonging to SVR that was left publicly accessible for an unknown period. They don't even know how long it's been like that. Stands for Stolen Vehicle Records. The SVR tracking service allows its customers to track their vehicles in real time by attaching a physical tracking device to vehicles in a discrete location. So their customers can monitor and recover them in case their vehicles are stolen. The leaked cache contained details of roughly 540,000 SVR accounts, including email addresses and passwords, as well as users' vehicle data like VIN, IMEI, numbers of GPS devices. The leaked database also exposed 339 logs that contain photographs and data about vehicle status and maintenance records, along with a document with information on the 427 dealerships that use SVR tracking services. I've never had an Amazon Amazon cloud server account, storage, whatever. Anybody here has experience with that? So is that really a situation when you get one of these, you have to know how to configure it?
Well, I mean, essentially, you're buying a virtual server.
Right.
You're buying either one of Amazon's AWS or their EC2 instances.
So
in most cases, you have it so that the information you're storing your information on there, and you need to access that information. They're leaving it open to the public. So if you somehow find the URL, yes, it's a publicly accessible thing unless you put some authentication on.
So it is your fault, the customer, to make it secured. It's not. You're essentially just
buying storage space.
Storage. Okay.
I mean, essentially, I'm not. Same thing with your. If you allow people to download files from your FTP with just the URL and no authentication, it's fine if nobody has the URL. But the second somebody gets your URL, you're screwed because now they've got everything. So I believe what these articles describe is a similar situation. It's not a publicly addressed website,
and it's not. And no, but my point is, it's not Amazon's fault either.
Oh God, no.
Okay.
It's not. It's completely not Amazon's fault.
Yeah. So all these breaches that happen on Amazon, and we hear about quite a few of them. So that means customers not knowing how to secure what they're buying. It's like you're buying a car and you leave the locks inside. You park it and you leave it unlocked with the keys inside, so to speak.
That's a good analogy.
That's really bad.
Stupid.
Yep. This is one of the reasons why at Delta Force we give you the password. We don't leave it up to you to set it up.
919-852-2121.
Yeah.
Does anybody here use nextdoor.com?
Yes. Recently got put into my new next door, my new neighborhood, or whatever they call it.
Do you, Amnon?
No.
You should.
But what? This is to announce problems in the neighborhood and things like that?
It is to communicate with your neighbors. We have over 80% participation in my neighborhood. Whenever I want to sell something or give it away, I put it there before I use Craigslist because I know who's coming to get it. I don't have to deal with people that may or may not be scammers, or if they're scammers, I know where they live, and that's important. So it's useful for that. It's also useful. Did somebody see a a white car riding around here yesterday with a shotgun hanging out the window. Oh yeah, that was some hunters that were coming in here. The cops can't, whatever. And it's useful for that. Unfortunately, the lefties are figuring out how to very narrowly skirt the rules to get their hidden political agendas through there. So unfortunately, it's taking a bad turn that if they don't bring under control will cause the good people to leave.
Who controls it?
I don't, well, they have what are called leaders, I think, but those leaders don't have the ability to whack members. They have to refer everything to the home office, whoever that is, for next door, and it appears that they might be a bunch of lefties tolerating this crap. And if a right winger comes in and posts something, it gets whacked. And if a lefty does it, oh, that's within the rules. You need to quit trying to suppress free speech. So it's unfortunate to see another one potentially going down the tubes.
There's a market to start your own.
Yeah, but unfortunately, most of the people in my neighborhood's a bunch of lefties.
Well, there you go.
Well, you wanted to move there. I thought that was the reason.
Okay, so John says he's a neighborhood lead, and he says I can kill messages. I think yes, you can kill messages, but can you remove somebody's account?
Yes, I believe you can, because I was the lead on my neighborhood.
Or block
my
them.
Neighborhood in New York.
You should be able to block them.
Well, I'm just telling you what the guy told me yesterday. He's actually the guy who started the group in my neighborhood. I didn't know him, but he started the group in my neighborhood. We were chatting offline about the behavior of some of these bad people. And he says, no, he said, I cannot kill somebody's membership. He may be able to delete their messages. Right. So John says, I don't think I can delete users.
Okay. So here's my question. What happens if I go and I apply?
You're echoing. Can't hear you.
Me?
Yes. You're coming through your
hear
speakers.
That. No, the speakers are okay. The speakers are off. Oh, but I can't hear you, can I?
I don't know.
No.
Hello?
Yeah, now I hear you.
Okay. You're not echoing anymore.
Check. No?
Nope.
Okay. What happens if I try to be a member of a neighborhood I don't live in?
Doesn't let you.
I'll let you.
So
It
they
sends a postcard to your house, and then it gives you a little code. It's actually a very sophisticated system.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I had to, when I
okay, wait,
I
hold
had to
it.
go online and
Hold on, let me take it further. So I got a card, and the card got lost in the mail, and somebody got hold of it and logged in, and they have the code. So now they are a member because they think that it's me. Who has the ability to remove me now?
somebody from nextdoor.com.
Yeah, the mothership.
Yeah.
But if something got lost, it wouldn't get sent to a house miles away. It would get sent to your neighbor. And they don't think that it's you, that you have to sign in with your account. It's just an access code.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I'm just trying to think of.
And if you asked to become a member and gave them your street address, they'd say, no, you're already a member. No, I'm not. But at that point, you'd be talking to someone who could get in and make a difference.
Okay.
And they have an interesting concept. When you log in, you have the option to send up to 10 postcards to your neighbors. You click on it, you see that someone's not a neighbor, you put in that street address and name, and they will mail them a postcard inviting them to do so.
I want to do that, but it's going to, I don't like how it says your name on the postcard, which I'm not a fan of.
Well, you just need, never mind.
Because I can invite 100 people, which is cool.
I can only invite 10.
I think that's because I'd created a neighborhood before, but
well, aren't you just special?
Well, I am. Of course, I'm special, but nevertheless, I wish it was just an anonymous invitation because I don't really know anybody here.
I don't understand why they don't just send them out to the houses that aren't participating instead of asking members to do referrals.
Yeah, I don't know what I think the reason behind that is just assuming that. I don't know.
Gene is nextdoor.com.
It's a very cool site. a lot of spam on it, which I'm not a fan of. People spamming their BS. But
Well, that's the problem is when they start. That's what I'm saying. It needs to be. They need to.
Well, I mean, in terms of just like, I'm not like, there's a guy every day that posts in here that he's a painter. Like, yeah, I get it. You've posted it every day for a week and a half. Like, you just keep posting the same damn thing over and over.
Did you flag it?
I did flag it, yes.
Then you must not have the influence you think you do.
I don't in this neighborhood. I did in the other one.
So
yeah,
I can actually I can invite 124 neighbors according to this. I don't know why.
well, there might be some nice women living nearby. You ought to send them out.
Well, I don't know what those. I don't know where they get the number 124 from. I wonder if there's like a karma-based system or something.
I don't know, but you can't turn off the nagging with the red button to send more invitations.
Yeah.
Which I don't
postcards. We'll mail 124 postcards on your behalf for free.
John says you're not supposed to self-promote your business. Well, then people are in violation and the leads need to be taking action.
I agree.
So is the communication within that neighborhood, does it happen through email or you log into a site and like...
It's a site.
So
it's kind of like Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can also get email notifications.
Okay.
Yes. But it's cool for like garage sales and when people are selling stuff. A lot of I don't know if you get this, Mike. A lot of lost animals.
Absolutely,
it's kind of the big thing.
And I'd say 80% of the people who post there find their animal.
Yep, I'm looking at one right now. This lady 2 hours ago. Thanks for the help, everybody. Apparently, the cat got out through a broken screen.
I got scratched by an outdoor cat about 15 days ago, and I said, well, wait a minute. I don't know if this cat's got rabies. Don't know anything about it. It's got tags and all that, but I couldn't figure out whose cat it was. And I wasn't too concerned about it, except this cat tried to attack my dog through a glass window. And when you see an aggressive cat like that, you wonder if that's a behavior issue associated with rabies. And so having said that, I watched the cat to see where it went. And it went across the street, and I was sitting there watching to see whose cat it was. Eventually, the cat comes out of my neighbor's yard carrying a dead squirrel. And it carried it all the way back over, across my yard into the next neighborhood. So I went on next door. I said, whose cat? We had a picture of it. Whose cat is this? Oh, I think that's my neighbor's cat. Which house? And then they told me which house it was. I looked up the house and who lives there. And I got when I got the tag, the telephone number off the tag on the cat when I was close enough to see it, I dialed that number and got voicemail for a guy named Jeff. And the owner of the house at the address she gave me, his first name is Jeff. So theoretically, that should be good. Anyway, we saw the cat yesterday, and it's not a lease law; it's a leash law. But anyway, they're not in Cary, so they're outside of the city limits of Cary. But having said that, my wife says she saw the cat yesterday and it wasn't foaming at the mouth. So hopefully I don't have rabies. The problem with rabies is it's always fatal.
Then why don't you just go to the doctor and be proactive with it?
Do you have any idea what the rabies treatment is?
No, I do not.
They have.
Is it worse than dying?
Well, no, actually, pain-wise, it's not.
Okay, well then, seems like you have a.
Dying would be easier.
Oh, okay. Well then screw it. Then who cares?
They have something like a series of 6 shots. They give it to you in your stomach and da 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 da. I mean, it's horrible.
Oh, hopefully you don't die. Worse than dying.
All right.
You know what? Not going to live forever.
So why did this cat scratch you? You just try to grab it or something?
Yeah, no, I wasn't trying to grab it. I was trying to get, it came up and was rubbing up against me, and I reached down and petted it, and it was sitting there liking it. And all of a sudden it reaches up and takes its claw and strikes at my hand, and it just catches the arm. But they tell me that you can't get rabies through a scratch. It has to be through
No, I don't think you can.
But you know what? It's all or nothing. I'd be the first case of where the cat had used its claws on a rabid squirrel, or if a squirrel can get rabies, and then scratched me with that claw, and I get rabies. But you know what? You're not going to live forever.
Yeah, a work case.
They'll teach you.
All right.
All
yeah,
right.
it will. You're absolutely right, Amnon. Never again will I try to help anyone find their cat. Absolutely will not, under any circumstances. If I can post that I saw a gray and white cat in my yard, that's fine. As far as me getting close enough to read a tag or to try to trap it or something, it will never happen again.
Take a picture and put it on the next door.
I did, and nobody responded to it. So I thought about having the cat captured and quarantined and see if that got his attention. Turns out the guy who owns the cat, we think we know who he is. He's a real jackass.
Oh, well then, you have something you could do.
Well, the problem with when they want to test a cat for rabies, they have to cut their head off.
Well, at least you'd know if you were going to have rabies or not.
Yep.
All right. It is that time again.
Well, before we go, I'm going to harass everybody one more time because we're on the last week. There's the link in chat. If you can donate a little bit, do it. It's gone up $200 since we've been here. And that's good. Thank you very much. If you can, donate. If you can't, don't worry about it. Just hope it never happens to you or your family.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Anything else? Steve, anything you want to add? Steve is...
No, I had one little bit I could put in this week, which was a tiny bit, but it was useful.
All right. Okay, then. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Steve, Nick, Mike. That was very, very good. Very, very good. And I feel...
I will not be here next week.
Well, that's okay. You want to tell us where you're going, or you just...
No, I got company. We have company coming in for the next 2 months.
Okay.
Hurts my feelings.
Get a Mac.
Okay.
Yeah,
I will do. I'll report next week on it.
Spence may be back by then, too.
Oh,
when?
What? A week ago, he said 2 more weeks. Or 2 weeks ago, he said 2 more weeks. So, anytime now. So, good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, and Donna. Yes, Mike. What?
Nothing.
Oh.
Nothing. I was just reacting to Norm.
Thank you for tuning
We need to get Norm on the show.
Thank you for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing, back up your hard drive, and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. While you're at it, like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tonight at 7, Nick is hosting Against the Norm on Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7, and you can listen on TuneIn. Bye, everybody.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.